Hello everyone, I am Avinash, the founder of Mentara, an AI-driven career mentorship platform. We are starting with Mentara Mindscapes, a podcast where I host students from top international universities. The aim is to learn from their journey and seek insights so that you can put in your best application. On the first episode, we have a very special guest, Anindya Mahajan. Anindya is a mechanical engineering graduate and my batchmate from NIT Surat. With a 6 CGPA and non-CSE background, he has defied all the odds to get into CMU's prestigious Masters in Software Engineering program offered by their School of Computer Science. Welcome to the show, Anindya. It's a pleasure to host you. I believe many of our viewers will find the conversation very interesting.
Thank you for the pleasant introduction, Avinash.
So we will talk through the entire journey that Anindya had, starting from his undergraduate days and how he transitioned from a mechanical engineering background to CS, like a program at CMU, and in between his entire journey as a student and then as a professional. To begin with, Anindya, I would love to know the story behind your academic and your professional journey. Please walk us through your undergrad, GRE scores, TOEFL scores, GPAs, your professional experiences, and your research and internship experiences if you have any.
So you are asking me to start from the college. I would rather want to start from before college itself. So
Sure.
actually, my journey into CS, where it eventually has gone now, it should have began before college itself. But like many of the students, I believe we don't know what we want to take in college. We barely have any idea what we want to do in life.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, when I gave my JEE in 2017, so I was actually a dropper. In 2016, I had basically not studied at all, 11th and 12th. So I realized I need to study and really, get into a good college because I knew I had the potential. So I took the drop year, got a decent rank. I got like 8500 rank, and then I didn't know what to do next. I just got a rank. I knew it's a decent rank. I'll be able to get into good colleges, but I had no idea about what branch to take. I just knew like I had love for mathematics and physics. So based on my rank, I saw that I'll be able to get these type of branches. CSE was not among those branches, and also I had this idea in my head that everyone is running after CSE, so I'm not going to be a part of that herd, so I don't want to take CSE. I could have gotten CSE at a lesser NIT with that rank, but yeah, so CSE went out of the picture. And then based on the options I had, it was basically between electrical and mechanical. So I just rationalized it to myself that I love cars. I've been a car buff since a very young age. That's pretty much the idea which I took to take such a huge decision in life.
I was on the same page.
Yeah, once I joined NIT Surat, I realized mechanical engineering is not really what I thought it would be.
Yes.
I mean, there is definitely knowledge about cars and all, but that's not the primary focus. Like, that's barely the focus.
True.
Most of the focus is on the things which I find very boring, engineering, drawing, and whatnot.
Yes.
I don't want to go into that. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, if that's where my journey begins in college, I don't have an interest in the branch that I have taken. Also, without going into my personal background, I was not in a good mental state as well at that time. But yeah, these two things combined, not having an interest and not being in a good mental state itself, these are not the combinations you want if you want to
True.
if you want to be good in your academics or do something in your college life. So yeah, I mean, that's where I began, and in my first semester itself, I barely actually I got a backlog in my first semester itself in engineering drawing. I had to go back during my holidays from my home to college. I didn't tell anyone in my home. I told them I'm going on a friend's trip, went to college, gave the exam, thankfully passed then. So yeah, I mean, it's a very rocky journey from the very beginning. And for the first 2 years, I pretty much had no idea. Like, college was just simply running past me. Uh, I feel that was the experience for a lot of my peers as well. But unlike them, I feel what I did not do was not share my shortcomings with other students. Like, it definitely helps if you share your shortcomings with other people who you are comfortable with, because then you can help each other out. So yeah, I mean, I was on a very sort of a lonely journey, and I had a very poor pointer at the end of my second year, and that's sort of where I sort of had a realization myself, like, time is slipping by. I really need to, take control of my life. Like, it's not fun and games anymore. Like, back in school days, again, this must be an experience for a lot of other students as well, like, where you don't study up until the exam, then you just pull one night of studying, and then you are able to pass with good scores. That didn't happen for me in college, especially because I didn't have interest as well. But yeah, I mean, that's where I was at the end of second year. And in third year, I actually, so in third year, we got single rooms in our hostels. And the group of people I was surrounded by in hostel, they were all from CSE. So when you are among those people, you invariably, these things come up, like what they are doing in class, what's happening, this and that. And through my conversations with them, I also got to know what CS is actually about. Like, I used to think it's about computers or something. I did not have an idea. It's basically the art of problem solving, which is the thing which I have always had an interest in, like, back from my childhood. So actually, that's why I prefaced the story from before college, because the ideal branch for me would have been computer science. It's just that I didn't even know that what I like is called computer science. Anyway, that's where the CS journey sort of began. And then I started looking up online as to how I can teach myself CS. And I came across this course from Harvard University called CS50, which is an introductory course in computer science. It's the professor who teaches the course, shout out to him, Dr. David Malin. I mean, I started learning about CS on my own through self-teaching, and then through I used to ask my friends about all my doubts and everything, and they were very helpful. And near the end of third year, COVID came and we were sent back home. Again, I feel I was pretty fortunate to be in that era, because during our final year, I feel the interviews were easier compared to how they would have been if they were in person. So yeah, I mean, based on this practice, I was able to get into my first company, which was Malaysian Bank, Maybank for short. So I was a full stack software engineer there for a year. That's where I got my first taste of enterprise software development. And then I transitioned into a startup called Plevo, where I spent the next 2 years of my career. And which brings me to now. And now I'm going for my master's in software engineering to CMU. I feel I've taken too much time.
No, that's great. And I believe that the story of yours is really a motivating factor for someone who feel they're lost in their college journey, because I can relate to Anindya myself, because I also took mechanical because I loved cars. We both were working in a racing team together. And I remember that only thing that we liked about being in a team or being in college was to work on that particular car. And outside of that, we didn't like thermodynamics, we didn't like material science or material strength. And yeah, we had a very common interest in automobile, but we did not like the course in general. So
You
one
you you
follow-up
just, you
question.
just taking those names is bringing
Yes.
back some really bad memories for me.
So I have one follow-up question for you here. So what will be your advice for students, those who are in a similar journey like yours, where they feel stuck, where they are going through a lot in their personal lives and the outside world does not seem to help much? Looking back, how would you have done things differently, and what would be your suggestion to someone in a similar situation?
I would want to approach this question in two different ways. Like outcome basis, take it from me. Please get your pointer up. Don't be like me. Don't continue with a low pointer. You have to find a way to get your pointer up, at least to a 7. If you are below that, try to get it to 7. Now, the other way of looking at this question is, how do you actually do that? And for that, I would really, if I could go back, I really would have asked my friends. I would have shared my problems with my close friends, with my family. In fact, my close family is very supportive. It was just in my own head, like I had this image of my own self, like I cannot share my problems, like what will they feel about me? They have put so much trust in me, and they'll find out like I'm not scoring well, this and that. But really, they really care about me doing well. So even though they might have been disappointed, and I'm specifically saying this because since that time, I have had other challenges in my life, and I have shared those challenges with my family, with my friends, and I have received help. And that's where I realized, like, I was stupid to not be sharing before. But again, that's a part of life. Like people, you take some time to grow up and realize that. Like it's basically like you might be an introvert, so you don't feel like sharing that. But yeah, I mean, my basic suggestion is to reach out for help, even to your professors. Like just go to them, be honest. Like, sir, I'm unable to cope up. I don't know what to do. So yeah, I mean, that's how I would put it.
Got it. And to summarize your undergrad journey, could you please give us a brief about the pre-application things that are needed, like your GRE scores, undergrad GPA? Though we have discussed it's around 6, but would love to hear from you. Your TOEFL scores, the number of years of work kits you had.
So yeah, I mean, GRE, TOEFL, these are the standardized tests, and these are required for most of the applications. I think these days GRE is not required for all the applications. TOEFL is definitely required for almost every application. But in my case, since my GPA was low, for me, GRE and every other aspect of my application, I use them in a way to offset or to remove the eyes from my GPA. Like the admissions committee, when they're looking at my application, I want to give them as many other avenues to look at rather than just my GPA. So yeah, I had a GRE score of 327 with a quantitative score of 169. Since I was trying for CS related courses itself, the quantitative part is the important one. And based off of what I have read, it seems like you should aim for anywhere above 168 in that section. Yes. And in verbal, it seems verbal is not that important, which also means like your total is also not that important. But again, in verbal, try to keep it above 152, 155, which I feel should not be that much of an effort. For quantitative, I would say, like, since you, I'm suspecting like everyone is from an engineering background who's going to be watching this. The quantitative section is pretty much the entrance exam level, like even less than that. So just do a lot of practice, and you should be able to get a good score. It's more about your accuracy rather than it's a really difficult problem and don't know how to solve it. You'll be able to solve it. There might be one or two tricks here and there, but it's about accuracy. So a lot of practice will help. In my TOEFL, I had a score of 113 out of 120. Again, for TOEFL, I've heard like TOEFL score itself is not that important as long as you clear the cutoff. It's like apparently it's like a checklist for the admissions committee. They see have you passed the minimum threshold score. If you have, they just remove the score altogether. Then it does not factor into your application. Like that's what I have read from many people online. In general, the specific tip is just to give a practice test, see where you really stand, then based on that find the sections where you are lagging and practice those sections specifically. And I feel maybe you should give yourself like a month or two to prepare for both these exams. Like 2 months is enough to give both the exams, because in GRE also you'll be preparing for your verbal section. That would be preparing you for TOEFL as well. TOEFL will have a speaking and it will have a speaking section and a listening section, which are both not present in GRE. But writing and verbal comprehension are part of both the exams. So yeah, I mean, these two exams, I basically took these in April of 2023, which is like 5, 6, 7 months before the admission deadlines. So these were like my first steps. At that point, actually, I wasn't even sure what universities are going to take me. Like with my GPA, with my background, since I'm not from CS, I didn't have any like research experience, any internship. I did have a professional experience in software development for 3 years. But again, I don't know. I used to tell this story in my head to myself, like they are not going to accept you. I really, now that I have received the admits that I have received, and having spoken to a couple of professors and a couple of people from admissions committee, they have rather had a very positive view about my application, which is something I could not wrap my head around before I received these decisions. To be very honest, like up until I received my admits, I didn't have any hope, because I was anyway receiving rejects before I received my first admit. So I was thinking like, yeah, this is expected.
Like you mentioned about COVID happening and then you going back home and preparing for the placements and DSA and whatnot. Could you guide us on like a brief on how would someone in your position should approach getting into a CS job coming from a non-CSE circuital branch, and how should they work on the core subjects if that is necessary, DSA, Algo, and few things here and there to get into that first, like get that step through the door.
If you're trying to learn something, or if you're trying to do something, try to be around people who have already done that or who have the skills to do that. That's where you'll get to know what your own shortcomings are. And yeah, this is very general. So just to specifically go into like how to get your first software engineering job without having the CS background, I would suggest like speak to people who are in CS branch, check with them what are they preparing for, ask them like what you need to learn. So like I said, usually it is you need to be able to solve these DSA puzzles, you need to be able to write some basic code. Some companies will also ask you OS and DBMS concepts. But as someone who is transitioning into CS from a non-CS background, I feel those become a little advanced. For me personally, DSA is the simplest form of CS. Like it's problem solving in a nutshell. With OS and DB, those are very structured concepts. So to learn them, you definitely need to invest more time. Again, ask your friends who are from CS which companies focus more on DSA rather than OS and DBMS. try to target those companies, figure out what their GPA requirements are, try to keep your GPA to that. A lot of companies might not even open up for your non-circuital branches. Again, you have to do the due diligence, like check with your seniors which companies came, which do hire from non-technical background. And to be very honest, I don't feel it's that difficult to get your first job as a software engineer. It's definitely true. The hiring committee they definitely will have a bias towards someone who is from CS rather than someone who is not from CS. But the way I have sold my story is like, look at me, I'm not even from CS, and yet I have mastered these skills. Isn't that better than someone who had access to all this knowledge? I did it all by myself. So you have to learn to sell yourself. Like that is one part you will have to definitely learn. That will help you with your applications as well, because what you are doing is you have a non-traditional journey. If you wanted to go into CS masters, usually you would take a bachelor's in CS as well. That would be the traditional route. If you are going the non-traditional route, you need to figure out ways where you can sell yourself in a way which makes you appear better than your peers.
True. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And coming from a similar background, I also got in my first job at City as a software developer. So the only thing that I did was I was proactive. I talked to a lot of people on how to crack a job, what kind of questions to solve. I did not attempt the coding part, but I did solve the MCQs on OOPS and other concepts. So being proactive is the best thing that you can do to navigate any challenge in your life. And just one of it is getting into a software job coming from a non-CSE or non-circuital branch. So, and yeah, like your story, like most part of your story is completely relatable, coming from a very similar background. We started our careers at two different fintech organizations. I started at Citi, you started a Malaysian bank. Then can you give us a walkthrough of how did you evolve as a developer coming from a non-circuital branch in those 3 years at Plivo and Maybank? What was the things that you learned that helped you grow as a developer?
My growth as a developer has a lot to do with the people I worked with. I have heard some bad stories from my friends who have not been that fortunate to be paired up with good teammates and whatnot, good managers or whatnot. So fortunately for me, both in Maybank and in Plivo, I was under the supervision of people who really wanted to help me develop. They gave me time and space to learn, pick up new things. So again, there I used to feel like I have very high expectations for myself. But those guys who are in the industry for that long, they know the reality. They know that you have just passed out of college. They don't expect you to just contribute on day one itself. Eventually, at Maybank itself, nearing the end of my journey, I worked on a pretty big feature for the team I was a part of. It was to develop a PDF generator for financial statements of the bank's customers. And this was a full stack feature. Like, we had to create the back end, we had to integrate it on the front end, and the entire project was handled by myself and another senior developer. So yeah, I mean, over time, I was able to go from having no idea about Java. At the time of my interview, I knew Python. That's what I was using for DSA. Python is the easiest language to work with. So yeah, I mean, time and the people around me helped. A similar story happened in Plivo as well. In Plivo, most of their core logic is in Go. Go was a completely new language for me. So again, there I was given time to ramp up. And again, like Avinash was saying, being proactive. That's one thing I feel about my own self as well. When I figure out there is some problem, I try to be as proactive as possible. So yeah, I mean, you have to be proactive, and then you have to expect that people around you are receptive to that as well.
Yes.
If one part of this equation is not matching, you can have a bad experience.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it's both the things. But yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. Good teammates and your own proactiveness to learn.
Got it. So you mentioned about asking for any problems that you had from your seniors and taking help from your colleagues. So if you have to give out keywords of skills that a fresher should have to excel in their career or to transition to a good developer from coming from a non-circuit CSE background, what would it be?
To be very honest, I don't feel I have that much experience even right now. I have 3 years of experience. Just based off my experience,
Yes.
I feel it's the problem solving ability, like general problem solving ability, nothing to do with coding. Like if you have the problem solving ability, you will be able to translate it into code one way or the
Yes.
other. But like it's a mindset basically. You should be able to think through problems logically.
Yes. So moving ahead, like you had amazing journey as a techie who was working in Java, then learned the latest technologies like Go. What made you think about having or pursuing a graduate study, and that too from US? Like, how did you decide upon that, and how did you finalize US as a location?
So to be honest, like graduate degree in itself is probably not going to help me like in that software engineering role in and of itself. It's a personal reason for me. Like I want to take this opportunity to have that good academic record, which I know I should have had back then itself, but I'll take it now. And again, like I said, for me, it's an opportunity to explore the world. And US has been US has always been sort of like a dream of mine. I've consumed too much Western content throughout my childhood and throughout my life that I wanted to go there. And yeah.
So, what specific areas did you focus on when you finalized on getting a US education and a graduate program? Like, you had 3 years of work ex, you had a different background. So, what were the focus areas that you thought of? These are the things I need to work on before I start with my application.
Like I said, up until the time I received my admits, I had no hope whatsoever to receive any admits. So you can just imagine at the beginning, I didn't have any clue like what should I even apply to. It really began with my cousin who is a PhD. He lives in Switzerland. My cousin kept on repeatedly pushing me. And with that, I also started looking up online, like what are the possible courses which are available where I might have a chance. So initially, I had no idea about what universities are there. I of course knew about the Ivies and the MITs and the Harvards, but these are mountains which I couldn't even look up. Like I knew these are too tall to climb. I mean, CMU was part of that. Like. Funnily enough, fortunately enough, I never really thought about CMU as well. But and I think I applied to 2025. I don't remember the exact number, but I did apply to a lot of universities exactly because I was playing the game of probability. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of investment of time going to different university websites, searching for their MSCS programs. So initially I was only looking at MSCS. Then I came to know that there are other programs as well. Like MS is a very specific form of master's degree where you have to it's a thesis based program, but there are non-thesis programs as well. There are Master of Engineering, there are professional masters, there is masters in software engineering, there is masters in cybersecurity. And for me, again, I just wanted an in, like Avinash was saying, with regards to someone getting their foot in the door for a software engineering job. For me, the goal was to get my foot in the door to a CS related degree. Basically, it was a lot of research. You have to go through different university websites, look at what each program is offering. Then you have to look at their admission requirements. Then you have to somehow hope that your GPA is above what their threshold is. That's why I said at the very beginning, guys, if any of you who are not in there, who have not graduated, if you still have the chance to improve your GPA. That's, if you have to take away one thing from my story, please raise your GPA. That will save you a lot of stress in the future.
True. So you mentioned about applying to 2025 universities. Contrary to the thought that you had initially, ki I will not have good programs for myself, coming from a non-CEC background and with a low CG. So what were the initial criteria that you had in mind that universities need to satisfy for you to put an application for them?
Initially, when I started looking at master's admissions in the US, I came to know most of the universities have a 3.0 minimum requirement for masters in their scale, which is 3.0 out of 4. A rough translation would be 7.5, which is not an exact translation, but roughly 7.5. That's why people recommend, like, keep your pointer near 8. That's when you become eligible for almost every program. So clearly I didn't have that GPA, and I initially thought that every university has this strict 3.0 minimum requirement. But even with that, I kept on digging, and slowly but surely I started coming across universities where this requirement was 2.75. For some it was 2.5. For some programs it was mentioned that we don't even have a minimum requirement. Actually, specifically for the CMU Master of Software Engineering program, which I got into, they have specifically mentioned in their FAQ, I'll just paraphrase, that they don't have a minimum GPA requirement, which is again like very unlike CMU. But yeah, I mean, there were programs like that where they specifically mentioned that there is no minimum GPA requirement. We look at your application holistically. Again, I got into some programs where there is a minimum GPA requirement, which is mentioned on the website as well. So when I was doing my research about different programs, I would send out emails to almost every program. I would tell them, like, this is my situation, this is my background. I know that it is mentioned that the minimum GPA is this, but are there any circumstances where you might be willing to consider an applicant who is like me? And some of these universities responded back affirmatively. So I applied to those universities. Some, in fact, I only remember one university which told me that no, you will not be considered at all, which was University of Maryland. They explicitly told me, no, your GPA is too low, it won't be considered at all. But yeah, I mean, most of the other universities I sent out the emails to, they all suggested me that even though your GPA is below our minimum requirements, please still go ahead and apply. Since your application is looked at holistically, and GPA, although it is a big part of the application, we take a look at everything, and that's how the decision is arrived at. And then I had a good GRE score. Then I started looking at universities where they were expecting good GRE scores. So my mindset was basically, how do I make myself stand out with whatever I have? So I have a low GPA. I need to find a university which accepts students with low GPA. Now it will be great if this same university has a very high threshold for GRE, because I have a high GRE. It would also be great if they give importance to people who have professional experience in software development. I have experience in software development. It was basically a lot of thinking on my own. Like, I had to look at myself and see what what attributes do I have, what can I bring to the university. It's pretty much you are selling yourself to the college.
True,
you
true,
are
true.
you are you're
Yes,
telling them like, take me, like this is who I am.
true.
So you have to figure out like what are your attributes. Once you figure that out, then you start finding out which universities are looking for those things. So like
Got it.
CMU's program specifically, this MSc program which I got into, I have gotten into MSc for professionals, which is a specific stream. So the MSc program has two tracks. There's one early career track, which is for people with up to 2 years of experience. Then there is an MSc for professional, which is for people with more than 2 years of work. So
Got it.
clearly, that program was for people who already had experience. And
Yes.
like I said, fortunately, I had a very good experience in both the companies where I learned a lot. I contributed in meaningful ways.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, the gist of it is, I was just trying to find out. I was taking different aspects of my profile, and again going through each university one by one, going through their program requirements one by one, finding out uh, what part of my application is highly requested by this program, and that's how I
True.
started
Yes.
shortlisting.
Got
In
it.
my shortlist, actually, I had I think I created I created a spreadsheet for my potential programs that I had to apply for, and I think I had over 70 or 80, which is again very surprising if you think where I
Yes.
started. Like I started by saying like, oh, it's not possible at all. What's the point? So
True, true. Yes.
there's definitely a way.
Got it. So, to everyone listening, Anindya just portrayed two of the best qualities that we discussed earlier. First, being proactive and writing emails to the admission committees to trying to make an exception for his profile. And the second was problem solving, where he made an approach of how can he find universities for himself given the situation he was in, and still trying to make the best out of it with a high GRE score and other attributes of the application that he had. And Anindya, will it be possible for you to share the spreadsheet link in the description of the video so that anyone who is from a very similar background like yours can get access to them, save some of their time, and also like adds a motivation factor for them so that they don't need to do the hard work of finding those 80, 100 odd universities.
I have sort of mixed feelings regarding that. It's not that I don't want to share it, but why I have a mixed feeling is because the part where I created the spreadsheet is where I learned so much about the entire process as well. So although I can share the spreadsheet, that's not an issue. But if people were to go ahead and create that spreadsheet by themselves, that's when they'll also get to learn a lot of things which I simply cannot encapsulate in my answers in this one video.
True. I understand that. Yes, means it's just about like the more research you put in while you are finding a university, the more you learn about the different attributes that are valued in your application. And during that time of creating that university shortlist, you learn more about yourself as a candidate and bring out different parts of the story, and probably it helps you while the time you start putting out applications, you are ready with a lot of things other than your GPA and the GRE scores that just brings out the best of the application that you're going to put in. So, Anindya, moving ahead, while you were applying to these universities, which consisted University of Washington, because I also applied to it, so I knew we both discussed about the application during that time. So, while you were applying to these universities, like or the likes of CMU, UW, we both applied to UW's MSIM program, so that's how I know that he applied to UW. So UW and other top colleges and Maryland and whatnot. So did you talk to some of the students that are studying there, and did that influence your decision with a yes or no or any other manner for the putting out your application?
Firstly, I tried finding people who were from my batch, who were in the same university, ideally in the same program. But if that was not possible, on LinkedIn, I would find out people who were in that program from different colleges, maybe not even Indians. I don't think there was any college where, after speaking to the students, I decided not to go ahead. Like I said, for me, a huge factor was the way I was playing this game was in a way of probabilities.
Yes.
And again, my cousin, who has been a huge part of my journey, he kept on telling me, like, don't worry about $60-70 application fee. Like, shout out to him. He actually funded a lot of application fees for me as well. That's what he told me, like, stop worrying about this. Here, take the money, just apply anyway. So yeah, I mean, I didn't choose not to apply based off any conversations I had with students in those particular programs.
As Anindya mentioned, that talking to seniors or graduates from that particular program helps understand things better, and also helps you find out unique insights about your profile that can make you a good fit for that particular program. So this is the idea behind building Mentara. Mentara is all about personalized career mentorships, where we have a study abroad vertical, and we have mentors like Anindya, who will guide you throughout your journey on what's the unique insight about a particular program, so that you bring out the best potential quality of yours, and the admission committee reading your essay doesn't feel like another generic template based essay that most of the Indian applicants or probably other international applicant pool submits to during the application cycle. So Anindya, moving ahead,
I would just like to add here, since he was talking about how talking to seniors who are in the same program helps, specifically for the CMU's MSc program, which I got into, where I'm going. Right as I was about to submit my application, so CMU's MSc application has an LOR, and it also has a video essay. And I got both of those things reviewed by people who were in the program. For the video essay, I received positive feedback, so there wasn't anything I had to change. For the LOR, specifically, one senior advised me with a very specific advice. He mentioned that people who had written in their LOR that we have spoken to the alumni of this program about the outcomes of the program, and that's why we are interested in the program. Like, specifically mentioned that earns you brownie points in the admissions committee. Like, this was a very specific advice, and I also added that at that point. And again, this wasn't a lie. I really was doing that. Since he reviewed it, he told me this. I added that. I don't know how much difference it made, but this is something which I couldn't have done on my own.
Hello everyone, thanks for sticking with us till here. This marks the end of part 1 of our conversation with Anindya. I hope you found our conversation very insightful and interesting, and learned a lot from Anindya's journeys of grit and determination. If you enjoyed our conversation, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, share the video with your friends and spread knowledge. I am Avinash, and I am building Mentara to revolutionize career mentorships. Part 2 of all this conversation will be available next week. Till then, stay tuned.